Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. This one is super fun. I am so excited to be doing this because it is just after I started my YouTube. Well, it's technically the first one I would have done of this, but it is the mid-year Freakout tag. So let's go. So I came across this and I'm trying to think, yes, Elliot Brooks. I'll pop a link for her channel down below. I think she's amazing. I saw she did this and it looked amazing, and I wanted to reflect on some of the books that I've read this year so far. So I'm gonna dive right in. And I wanted to, oh gosh, I don't know what I wanted to do. I'm just having a look for the questions here quickly. So we're gonna jump right in and go with the best book I have read so far in 2021. And I would say probably the best book that I've read so far. I am going to go, so what I did first off very quickly is I tried to, every now and then I came across something that I really wanted to do the same book for, and then I thought, no, I'm going to try and keep them as different as possible. So just to keep this fun, I might mention if they're, if what the double is as we kind of go along, but so far to jump in, I'm like getting tongue-tied again. I do this well. But best book I read so far in 2021 would probably be Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I absolutely love this book. So just to tell you a little bit about it quickly, it is the sequel in the duology for Six of Crows, and it is 6 characters. I'm sure, there's been so much hype around the Shadow and Bone trilogy. It was so fun to see these characters in the series, but basically they go on a heist in the first part of the duology, and one of their members gets caught, and they kind of follow on and get their way out of a few interesting twists and turns. But I absolutely loved the complexity that happened in Crooked Kingdom. It was probably one of the most well thought out, like intricate, mixed up, bend, twist, one after another, best book for twists that I've ever read. So that was probably the best book that I read in 2020. And then the second question is the best sequel you've read so far in 2021, and I would probably say that would be A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. I absolutely love this series. It is multiple perspective, but basically you have Laia and Elias, and they are in this land or kingdom, and I'm hitting a blank for what it's called specifically, but Elias was trained to be a warrior in the martial empire, and Laia is one of the scholars, which in essence is like a suppressed and oppressed people. They basically slaves, and Elias doesn't want to be there. He's also got his best friend Helene, who is also one of the top students at the academy that teaches them, and this whole ensuing adventure, well, I know a lot of these books have adventures, but how else do I explain this without giving away too much of the plot? But so much happens, supernatural, normal, wars, like he's been, people have been pulled into different fates and different things, and there are different people involved, and it is literally in this book, it has accumulated to be like, continent wide, with all these different countries involved in this massive war, and everybody's fighting and trying to figure things out. And I absolutely loved it, and the way everything got pulled together and just finished off at the end, I just thought it was fantastic. It has sat with me, some of these characters, and it was a beautiful pulling together of everything from the first 3 books. And I'm probably going on a bit too long about some of these. Okay, new release I haven't read yet but want to is, oh gosh, this is interesting. It's a little out of my comfort zone, but that is The Electric Kingdom by David Arnold. This is super fun. So it sounds like it's a post-apocalyptic, people have died from plague. What are we having right now? And this girl goes on an adventure. There's a pet involved, which I think is really cool, and obviously she picks up some of the stragglers and has something to do with a time portal. Looks really awesome. I haven't read it yet. I know it's a newish release, so that would probably be on the ones that I want to read. Then the next one was my biggest disappointment read for the year. That would probably be, unfortunately, Dust by Cara Swanson. I hate kind of saying this because I don't like to be negative about anybody's books, And it's not that I hated it. The plot idea, the concept was phenomenal. It's a Peter Pan retelling, and Peter Pan is obviously stuck in the mortal world. It's an urban fantasy, and this girl kind of, you know, her twin is missing, and she sort of got this illness, but it turns out it's sort of like dust flakes off of her skin, and it's dust like fairy dust that makes you fly. So the concept is absolutely amazing. The whole idea is to find her brother, get back to Neverland, and you know, but I just felt the characters, the plot was great, the characters were weak. That's actually the best explanation I can come up with, is that although the characters were interesting, the characters felt weak. And to me, like good characters will pull through a very weak plot. The other way around, not so much. So that was my biggest disappointment. Probably my biggest surprise for the next question was A Throne of Swans by Catherine and Elizabeth Corr. So this one I kind of saw, I haven't seen a lot of this. I see there's a bit of it on Instagram. I kind of did a bit of a search, not much of it on BookTube, but I saw the cover and I thought that's such a beautiful cover, and then I read the synopsis for it, and basically it is sort of like I want to say Swan Lake retelling, but basically people, the nobles in this land, have the ability to turn into birds. And then you have normal people who are obviously flightless and they can't do this. So anybody who rules is a noble who can turn into a bird. And if you can't turn into a bird, then your life is forfeit because you don't actually really fit into the mold anymore. And yeah, you don't fit into the mold anymore. And here in this book, her mother has been killed. Her father has just died, and she is on her way to, Aderin is on her way to court, and she wants to find out, she wants to unpack this mystery about who actually killed her mom. And I thought it would be cute. I love the twist where, like, nobles have this ability to turn into birds, and she turns into a swan. I thought that was really, really cool, and I thought that there would be like a little bit of a mystery going on. I did not expect, however, the political intrigue, the growth that this character developed. It was a beautiful duology that I've just finished reading, and I just, opposite to the book that I just read, the plot started off mild, and as it developed through the duology, it literally just exploded and blew me away with how intense it was and how everything sort of happened. And the characters were just phenomenal, especially Adeline. I loved her development throughout this book, and just how she goes from this young girl literally in a span of a year to being what she ends up being at the end, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. So the next question, favorite new author, debut or new to you? So I'm going to be a bit of a weird one here and say the author that is new to me. I kind of tend to go a little bit against the grain sometimes. I want to pick up a book that I know is good, but I like every now and then finding surprises. And sometimes if there's too much hype around a book, I'm like, I don't know, I'll read it later. You know, I want to find a few other things first, and I'll read about that later. So I pushed this off, and then I was like, no, this year I had to read it. Especially since a friend of mine picked this up, and she was like, Michelle, you have to read this. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic, brilliant, blah, blah, blah. And that, of course, is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So although it's new to me, not to anybody else, the whole world knows about it, but it was probably my most fun find. I absolutely, I still think about the characters. It has blown me away and stayed with me. So the next question is about who your latest crush is, book crush. Newest fictional crush. And I'm going to stick with an interesting one here, which is Morozko, which is the best name you can give him, but basically the what do you want to call him, like the sort of human half god being, which is Frost from The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. Really interesting character. I loved how he kind of tried to put her first and move on with his own things, but he was just so completely drawn with by the character of Vasya that he just couldn't forsake her, and he was there regardless through everything, no matter what it ended up doing to him. And he was just such an interesting, fascinating character that definitely stuck with me. So the next question here is newest favorite character. And I sort of touched on this already, but this is the second part of that duology. Oh, a throne, throne of swans and a crown of talents, and that of course is Aderin. I absolutely loved her development through this duology, starting out as this young girl and inexperienced and anxious and silly and trusting everyone that comes around her, to this absolutely gorgeous character which ends up at the end of this duology. So she's probably one of my definite new favorite characters. I cannot believe we haven't seen more of that around. Then, a book that made you cry. I am soft. A lot makes me cry. So I'm going to jump in here with an interesting one. I was kind of like, I cried during that one. Yeah, I cried during that one. Oh my goodness, I cried during that one. And I decided to go with one that really actually touched my heart, strangely enough, but A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. And the reason this made me cry probably was, I think a lot of women out there have experienced things that are hard to explain. And perhaps because we are strong, we hold a lot of those things in us. And I just felt that this book was an embodiment of all of that, as well as the healing that comes afterwards. And that to me touched my very soul. And not just for me personally, but for people in my life, people that I know, people that are very special to me. Of course, I'm talking about women. But I just thought that the way that this was captured was so beautifully and intricately done. And it sort of crept along at me when, if you guys have seen my review, I'll try and link that down below for you as well when I reviewed this one. But it started out so much as like a full of smut book, and it was so fun to read, but I felt like a guilty pleasure because it was quite hectic, and it sort of evolved into this book that was absolutely phenomenal with the development that Nesta went through. And then the next one is a book that made me happy. So I'm going to go with two here. And one of them was it was a debut that I think was a debut author, which I was absolutely fantastic. And that was Shelby Mahurin with The Serpent and Dove. And this was so much fun. This book definitely made me happy because as I went through it, our main character, her name has gone, I can't even remember her name. It's like disappeared on me now. But she's just so happy. Louise, of course. She's just so happy. She lives her life completely. And there's a point in here where she walks around and she's just high on life and high on everything that's happening around her. And I think, oh gosh, I have never laughed so much as I laughed during this book. And that was so much fun. And then I actually had a second one for this one just because of a different reason completely, and that was Diana Gabaldon's Outlander. And the reason that this made me happy was just because of the relationship that developed between Jamie and Claire. I watched the series, I read the book because I wanted to read it and rewatch the series together, and just their relationship and their absolute love together, it was a different kind of happy. What relationship is... Well, I suppose there's a few others that could probably be in there as well, but I just thought that the relationship between these two people was just absolutely phenomenal, and it was evident through every chapter, and it was so much fun to read. And then I know there's another question in there that says, the most beautiful book that I have bought this year. And I am going to go along with How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. Hello, Anime. How are you, Anime? My cat's come to visit. So I think this is absolutely gorgeous. The cover is so beautiful. But even when you take that off, you've got, the hardback itself is so beautiful. And the artwork inside, I just thought was so much fun. Absolutely beautiful and just whimsical, and yeah, so explained the little short stories that are in here. So I definitely think that was super fun. And I know I have missed a thingy in here somewhere. Most anticipated release, new release you haven't read yet but want to. So a new release that I haven't read yet but want to. I did that one. I'm having such a blank moment here. And then the other one was most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I am going to go with two. just because I have read the first of one, the other two of the other, and I really want to see how these end. And I'm so curious about them. The one is Kingdom of the Cursed, which of course is the sequel to Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco, and that's coming out in October. And then the second one I'm quite excited about is Gods and Monsters by Shelby Maheron, and that is coming in July. So I know I'm super excited about those ones. And then the last question to come up here is probably, what books do I still want to read this year? Where do I start? Anyway guys, thanks so much for joining me for this one. It was so fun to kind of just reminisce on all the books that I've read and all the worlds that I've visited, and so much fun that I've had. Let me know if you guys have read any of these, or if you're anticipating the same releases as I am. I'd love to find someone else to kind of do one or two buddy reads with, so definitely pop a comment down below. Let me know if some of the ones that I'm planning on reading are things that you're planning on reading, and then we can chat. But one way or another, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.